Hey guys, my name is Kendrick and welcome to ENFP Mail. Today I get to interview Dallas. So welcome, Dallas.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey man, good. So we're both fellow ENFPs, but we're quite different also. What kind of ENFP are you?
I am double feminine, consume sleep, play blast. So
Now,
I am, yeah, consume lead.
when you got your type back, how did you feel and what did you think?
Um, I was surprised at ENFP, because for about 10 years before I got into OP, had thought of myself as an INFJ.
Oh,
And Dave and Shannon had actually said that made sense they had actually guessed that. They said, let me guess, every time you take a test, you get introvert, you skyrocket on the intuition, your feeling is kind of middle, and then your JP is about in the middle. And I'm like, yep, that's kind of what it is. And they're like, so you look at that, you see yourself definitely as an introvert, and intuition above feeling, naturally where you go to INFJ.
right.
Yeah.
And then when they said it to you, how did you respond?
So I was expecting they were going to tell me I was an INFP beforehand.
Yeah.
And I had clicked on the document and I saw NE and FI, but my brain had swapped them in my head. So I was like, damn it, because I didn't want to be an INFP.
Yeah.
And I think seeing ENFP on there was just like, oh, it was very funny because I think I had a lot of folks in my life who I thought were ENFP and probably aren't.
Yeah.
And that's always the type like I had really admired.
Yeah.
So it was a pleasant surprise, I think, to get it.
I think that's hilarious that you're like, I don't want to be an INFP.
Yeah.
And then you got your types back, and then it was a pleasant surprise. So that sounds it's like often opening like the perfect Christmas gift or something.
There you go.
But did you feel like there was like some sort of identity crisis? Because a lot of people, when they get their type back, they feel like their worldview has been shattered as a result of, maybe, like, for example, for you, for the last 10 years, you thought you were an INFJ, right? But then suddenly you're an ENFP. So was there any of like, worldview shattering, or were you completely okay with it?
I was pretty okay with it. I think that was kind of what drew me into OP and kind of giving it a spin anyway, is that my life experiences with other people who I thought were INFJ, or said to be were INFJ, just didn't resonate as well. And I think little things that I had always kind of known about myself I was more like, yeah, I can see how that lines up. And I when they were doing the thing with triangulation, they're talking about triangulation all the time, and like ask all these people who care about you, what about you? And I had to go, am I scatterbrained? And like, it was so funny to have all these people like laugh at me when I mentioned that, because I'm like, yeah, I am notoriously bad with the feminine demon sensing. I think that's it's comical how much it plagues me.
Well, let's talk about that then, since you brought that up already. So talk about your demon
Feminine sensing.
Yeah.
So in a comical, I'll talk about how it's funny at first. I am the person who constantly forgets where things are in reality. I'll set my like keys on a table, and the table will be just moderately messy, and I can't tell you how many times I've like made myself late for work, spinning around my apartment like looking for them. And then the most, I think, triggering question that anyone could ever ask someone with demon feminine sensing is, well, where's the last place you remember having it?
Yeah.
Because I sit there and I think, well, my brain explodes with all the possibilities of places that I have seen my keys.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've seen my keys on the couch. And it doesn't, I don't have a chronology for it. So that question to me is completely useless. It's just like, and I usually end up getting more frustrated about it, but hilariously bad with it. My friends have had to teach me like the keys, wallet, phone pat down for like leaving the house. I lose things all the time. It's terrible.
Now, since you're talking about your feminine SI, let's go flip it around to masculine NE. So, because that when you just said earlier that when people ask you where was the last place that you left your key, you start thinking of like patterns, like where do I usually sit, right? So
yeah.
Let's talk about your masculine NE. What is that like for you? to a masculine
So,
any?
masculine any. So what it's like for me, normalcy, but to give you a less straight answer, I think just being really, really confident in the patterns I see. I think more so than your typical ENFP.
Yeah.
When I think I've seen a pattern, I'll hold on to it. I'll recognize it, and I usually kind of get that, like, I think Shannon had described it as like the "duh, it's so obvious" kind of like energy. When I'll see something, playing games, when, like, I always think about playing like games like League of Legends or something, and someone's doing like a boss or something, and I always seem to know when the enemy team is doing something like 30 seconds to a minute before anyone else on my team knows. And it's just always that it's feeling really comfortable existing in a state where I don't have a lot of the information, at least being able to fly from the hip and make guesses, because I think it's a state, because, masculine any and feminine SI are a coin. So it's constantly in a state of kind of having your facts and your reality be shaky and crappy all the time, and kind of like constantly feeling gaslit about facts, about the way that information actually was represented, versus feeling absolutely confident in the patterns that you believe you've seen.
Now, when you use that masculine any, so you mentioned League of Legends, right? Like, you know what the other team is doing, like 1 minute in the game. How accurate are you with your predictions? Like, would you say your pattern recognition or future projection is quite more accurate than not accurate? Or
Yeah, I would say so. And it's terrible when it is, because it validates my savior. Yeah, depends on the thing. When it comes to something I'm really good at, and something that, especially when it's something that I've consumed, slept the information on, and I know it, it's pretty accurate. At least 85%. And less so when it's not something that I've had time to digest information on, and then I typically try to take the stance of, well, I don't actually know that because I don't have the facts.
right. Now let's talk about your masculine FI.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably really easygoing on the outer world, but your inner world, would you say you're more intense with that masculine
Dude,
FI?
yeah. So with the consume being lead and the consume being MM for me,
Yes.
it's very funny, because I see a dichotomy with myself. Is when people hang out with me in general, I probably seem very easygoing, passive, and just kind of, it's funny. Internally, I am a very, very rigid, I think, an intense person internally. And yeah, absolutely, with the masculine intuition and the masculine FI up front, and both of them being double activated. Yeah, I see myself internally as personally very intense, where I think generally when people hang out with me, I seem easygoing.
Can you dive deeper into that intense inner world of yours, like especially the masculine
Intense.
FI?
So dive deeper into the intense inner world. Man, and here's that demon block. It's so hard for me in that as well, just, but like with the media I consume, with the imagination I have, with my values, with just all the sorts of things I have, they are really immovable. They are things that I like, things that I care about, things that I value just don't move. I feel, one of the things that I think about with masculine FI in particular, is that if I have it behind something, that I want to do, like I was doing a fitness challenge, 2017, I believe. I was starting to get a little heavy, and I was just kind of like, I never want to be 200 pounds in my life. And I think I hit 199. And it's kind of funny with masculine FI, I had thought about it. It's kind of like introverted feeling in a lot of way I can associate with like pain being a motivator, and like kind of thinking, and like really, I mean, while I was able to have my reasons for it, it was almost like I actually won MVP on that. There was like this like fitness challenge that I had done And it was by using pain as almost like this way to kind of like psych myself out for like 2 months, where I felt like I was just kind of like in a different mode, very intense, very driven, and like unstoppably driven.
Yeah, I 100% relate to you because I'm a fellow masculine FI person. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely relate to that, pain being that motivator for that FI. Now, the crazy thing about you is that you're almost like the pure kind of ENFP, you know, like the having masculine NE and masculine FI
Mm-hmm.
as your saviors and both masculine makes you like the purest form of ENFPs. And what I found, like, you know, just
That's funny because
sorry,
Dave and Shannon repeatedly said that I don't fit the stereotype of an ENFP.
oh, okay. Well, why don't you talk about that and then I'll continue on then.
For sure, yeah. I don't think anybody who didn't, if anybody was coming at it from an MBTI perspective,
Right.
and not from an OP perspective, I don't think I've ever had anyone throw ENFP at me as like a guess from the MBTI. I've gotten INFJ and INFP a lot, and I think people just see the introversion with the consume, sleep, mope energy.
Right.
So I just don't. I think people kind of have for ENFP, you either have your people either see Zoe Deschanel or they see Robin Williams, or I think that's probably what people. That's sort of that zippy skippy sort of consume play stereotype for ENFPs that I don't exactly resonate with.
Right. But what I was thinking though earlier was that I noticed that people who reach genius level at anything tends to be like the pure form of their type. So like doubling down on your saviors essentially. So for you, you have like, you know, masculine NE and FI, right? So
Yeah.
I can probably assume that you're probably genius level at creativity. That's what I would probably say.
Yeah,
Yeah, talk about that.
I I don't know. I think I see myself as an intensely creative person, but it's kind of like in a weird way, not a big deal to me. Like that's just kind of who I am. Like I think I'm constantly existing in a state of creating things. It's almost kind of annoying. I can't stop. Um, I can't like focus and narrow down on something, but I'm always thinking about hypotheticals and creating scenarios and organizing things based off priority and value, and throwing something into this kind of like windmill of multiple different possibilities for things and teasing it out. And that's just, it's kind of the natural state of things.
Now,
Just
is this all happening inside your head, or are you manifesting something in real life?
most of the time in my head. I am usually, what I do is I have tons of little papers around the house or my notebooks or my iPad or something, and I'll always like write down like these like conceptual ideas or something, and they usually stay within the conceptual state. I just scattered all around, probably sound like a madman, but
No, it's fine. I completely understand you.
sure. Yeah. So yeah, just existing in tons and tons and tons of ideas, but getting very bored of them very quickly. This is just what happens.
So you'll come up with like an awesome story in your head or an awesome idea,
Yeah.
and you're completely immersed in the emotion of it too. But then the next day it's gone. Would you say that's
Yeah.
about right? Like,
With a lot of things, one of the things that has had permanency in my life is D&D and Dungeons and Dragons. Playing those things, I have run and created maybe over 15 different like multiple month running campaigns for things, where kind of just things that kind of spark out of my head. So yeah.
I want to switch gear to your blast. So because you have so many crazy and creative ideas inside your head, and you've taken some notes on it too, you said that most of it stay conceptual. It doesn't really manifest into real life. So how has blast affected your life, positive, like in a positive way or negative way? Having it last, you know?
Having it last is definitely negative, and it's something that I'm kind of been wanting to sort of tighten up about myself, because having double feminine blast means that I always second guess my reasons for things, and I always second guess my recollection of the facts. It makes me a very non-confrontational person when it comes to argument. Usually, I want to see the patterns where people are, and if I disagree with something, it's kind of, if I have to provide specific ST examples for it, it's a lot more painful and a lot more frustrating. I don't particularly like running my ideas through the gauntlet with things, even when I figured out in a lot of cases, when I've been absolutely right, and I've been absolutely right about my perception of the situation. Just gathering that information, organizing it, and putting it in a way that's going to make sense to someone else is just tremendously frustrating and exhausting ordeal. Finding examples and just kind of going through and pinging back with people and trying to convince them. Very frustrating. It's something I've been trying to tighten up, trying to get better at it. Yeah. Difficult though.
Have you ever experienced where, you had this really cool and crazy idea, and in your head it makes perfect sense, and then you had like someone that has an ST savior challenge you on it, and then you had trouble defending it almost?
Yeah, I've definitely had that. And I mean, in some cases, usually what I need to do is either think about it more, or it doesn't necessarily work out, and I don't think I get too emotionally attached to it. Depends on the certain thing. I have often found about myself that I get less interested in my ideas when I talk about them with people. It's kind of like I'll run through the gauntlet of dreaming it up, consume, processing it, wanting to tease it out, and then once I get into the spot where I'm like showing people, or like kind of in that blast state, and
Yeah.
like getting people hyped up, I almost like will lose my vigor for it, or it will become uninteresting to me.
How come?
I don't know if it's that if I've just run the gauntlet on it, or I feel like my brain has already played out the possibility of what this idea is going to be. And
Yeah.
it's just like, I already know how that's going to be. That's kind of boring. And now I just want to do something else. Or maybe it could be also the accountability towards the tribe, because once you've said something, or that you say you are going to do something, it's almost this feeling like being on the tribe's timeline for something, especially if people ask you.
Yeah.
People ask you like, oh, how's that project going? And it's not that it wasn't necessarily going before, but now that because someone is asking, it's like I feel controlled by this timeline that is kind of arbitrarily put on me for what I want to do.
And does that bother you a lot when that happens, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it especially what will happen are folks who are interested in the ideas that I have and then want to push themselves onto it, and then it kind of feels like they're like twisting and controlling the idea in a little bit, and pulling it away from what my original vision was. That'll happen a lot with collaborative projects, with writing projects, trying to work on video game design, just a lot of creative things. I think that will happen, and I get very I know about myself. I can get very internally opinionated about my aesthetic and what I want.
Which industry do you work in? The video game industry? Because you're talking about a lot about video games, right?
I don't work in the video game industry, but I do it a little bit as a side hobby. I'm a computer scientist.
Computer scientist?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
So I program. I wrote code. So predominantly, I work for a company that does precision fluid dispensing systems.
Yeah.
So basically, the way I could think to describe it is, you think about a microchip on a computer and the little adhesives that are held together, and that those need to be pristine perfect when they're being done in a mass production scenario. So I work on the machine that helps create recipes that do that. So I work on an embedded system.
So that job sounds like you use a lot of SI. So how are you?
Yeah.
So how's that working for you?
That's an astute observation. It does use a lot of SI. It is it is a job where I'm doing a lot of my demons. So it's very taxing. I actually have my minor in psychology. I have a minor in personality and social psychology, and yes, computer science is a very ST field. And I don't know. I think it was just sort of a toss up that I had when I was in college. I was just like, well, if I end up doing computer science and I hate it, I can always like switch over to something else.
Yeah.
And then I've been having, that's kind of what I've actually been feeling recently with my life, has been wanting to go and been like, well, I kind of have been wanting like to maybe pursue psychology a little bit more, because that's kind of where I really feel like my gusto and like my strength, the sort of the NEFI strength is in psychology, and be able to understand people from where they are. And I always, even my like worst psychology classes in college were still just pretty good. So I was kind of tinkering around with the idea of getting my PsyD.
But do you think because you're consume sleep that because you live a lot in your internal world that
Mm-hmm.
in a way it's a good fit also, like working in that a more introverted kind of job?
In a
Computer.
computer science job.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely grown me in a lot of ways. Absolutely, kind of being put up the gauntlet and having to deal with the sandpaper of your demons. So it's definitely grown me a lot. It's stressful.
And as a consume sleep person, have you ever gotten stuck in that consume sleep loop? Like you're just stuck in the inner world and I think they call it looping, where you're just in a constant state where you're just stuck inside that inside world.
It is. I mean, it's very easy to get stuck in La La Land in my own little personal world. In boring meetings, I'll definitely phase out. I'll definitely phase out and like kind of like be stuck in my head, especially really heavy blast meetings at work, where kind of people are just sort of like going back and forth with their ideas and trying to like, oh no,
Yes.
this is my idea, and just sort of like very easy to kind of like retreat back into that internal world.
Right. When you got so earlier, you were typed as the double feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And double feminine is tester and visual.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about being a tester and also being a visual?
I have the silliest anecdote for tester, and it's, I mean, we don't know, we're not supposed to do anecdotes, but um, I am the kind of person when I go to a Mexican restaurant, and this is just kind of my silly little anecdote about tester for that, where they'll have like 7 or 8 salsas, and I'll go and get one of each kind, and
Oh, wow.
I'll like put one on the burrito and eat it, and be like,
Uh-huh.
okay, and then I'll go and get another one, and I'll like create a hierarchy
Yeah.
in my head about like which one works with this thing, and like prioritize and kind of like organize around that.
Yeah.
So my little consume sleep tester sort of thing. It's kind of funny. I like trying things out. I like experimentation. I like what if scenarios. I like seeing what happens when you put two things together,
Yeah.
and seeing the result. I think that's probably I mean, just because I'm not necessarily even sure that Dave and Shannon necessarily know what they mean by tester, but that's kind of my rationale for it. I like putting things together and kind of seeing how they work. I like playing things out and sort of experimenting like that.
I think, you know what, honestly, that's probably the best explanation of what tester is like I've ever heard. Because everyone describes it.
Putting multiple different salsas on your burrito.
No, but that's really good. It's like, a lot of people have told me what their tester is. I'm like, that doesn't make sense still, like the way you explain it. But the way you explain it makes perfect sense. I know it's a food analogy, but
Mhm.
like now I'm wondering if my girlfriend's a tester too, because like she does that shit, right? Like she's
Yeah,
like, she'll always want to try different food. She's like a huge foodie, and like, like
yeah.
she wants to try all the different food in the menu, and I'm like, okay.
Well, that's some of the most exciting things, especially the places you can go to where you can kind of experiment and do things like that, and just kind of really be exposed and kind of that way. I don't know, it's fun.
Okay, that's interesting. I think my girlfriend's a tester. She's an ENFP also. Fascinating. Um, what about visual? Do you feel like you learn visually, like
Yeah.
really well? Can you talk about
Um.
experience with
So
with that?
so I can do an anti-example. If you tell me something audio, I'm not going to remember it.
Yeah,
Uh, if I'm in a listening state and if I'm listening for the core concepts, I'll remember the core concepts about something that someone said. But
yeah,
if it's a lot of sensory information,
yeah,
if it's a lot of sensory information and it's audio, I can't hold on to it. It's just, after a while, it's just the gate closes. There's too much SI, and yeah. Visually though, I think I have a better memory, better ability to retain things. I think I've always kind of been a visual person. Visual patterns are easier for me than I think than audio patterns.
Damn, you're so different from me, and like other, and like actually like other ENFPs that I've interviewed. But even though your blast is last, though, you can articulate your ideas, though.
Well, thank you.
I get what you're saying. I'm not like
No worries.
maybe because we're both ENFPs, and I can still understand a common any language, but like
That could be it. I think I've hashed out the conversation topics enough, so you'll have to catch me on something I'm not prepared for, and a little bit blah blah blah. So.
True, right? Because you've been studying up for a while, so I guess it's not.
Sure.
Now, how did you feel when you got typed as double feminine? Because a lot of guys might feel like, oh, that's kind of like an attack to my masculinity, right? Like, how did you feel? Like, did you
Yeah.
know, or is
It was
like
kind of funny. Dave's anecdote. He's like, as soon as I saw the hair, he's like, I knew. I think they were just giving me shit. I don't know. In some ways, it makes sense. I'm not. I mean, it's. I'm not somebody who typically holds on. I think to traditional masculine archetypes. I've never really once felt the desire to like alpha male on people.
yeah,
Um, I definitely push and I dig when I think someone's doing that back to me. And I think that's the masculine FI and probably the masculine FI and the don't control me, bro.
right,
But, so I'll dig absolutely if I think someone's doing it onto me, but I don't like, to me, aggressive social behaviors, especially, or you think of like typically masculine aggressive social behaviors seem controlling to me. And I don't do those. I don't feel, and it's kind of funny because I think because my first function is double masculine, I don't really feel super feminine, but I mean, I can see why people would perceive that, or and I can see why my aesthetic and the way that I kind of like flow with conversation would be perceived that way. So yeah, makes sense to me.
yeah. The thing is, when I'm talking to you, you don't give me the vibe that you're gay. Like you give me the vibe that you're actually like straight. Is that
Well,
right?
I appreciate that.
Is that right?
I am straight.
Yeah, no, because I've interviewed ENFPs who were double feminine, and
Hmm.
I think it's pretty obvious that they're gay. Not saying that in a bad or good way.
Hmm.
That's just the gender preference, right? Or
For
sex
sure.
preference. But like you're double feminine, but you don't strike me as like I said, gay. Like you strike me as straight.
Hmm.
So maybe it's because during our conversation we focus a lot on your masculine FI. So it's like that's kind of like
Hmm.
that like masculinity is coming out from. Because in the end of the day, everyone is feminine and masculine, right? So
Yeah.
now,
I wonder if it has to do just kind of like teasing the idea out that my double feminine function is my last one, or my double feminine animal is my last one.
it could be because I think the way you present yourself to the world is through your saviors, and your saviors
Hmm.
are masculine. So that would make perfect sense. In that case, now you were talking about being controlled. So let's go jump into
Oh boy.
the control thing. So tell me about a time when you freaked out that someone was trying to control you, or
That's
something, or something.
something or someone was trying to control me. God, there's so many. And it's kind of funny because I had thought, I have a little bit of kind of a thought I had about the way that maybe masculine sensing ENFP EPs would respond to control versus feminine sensing. But I think a specific example, man, it's kind of hard to get into some of those, without kind of pulling on the sort of like intense masculine FI.
Do it up if you have to.
If I have to bring out the dark secrets.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely. I think about like, man, there's one thing that comes to mind from like childhood, and I think about like being like a middle schooler. I hadn't hit my growth spurt yet, and my cousin who is like 2 years older than me, and he's like 6'5", and he skyrocketed. I'm actually like probably the shortest guy
Yeah.
in my family, so I'm 6. So a lot of really,
Oh my God, you're all tall.
yeah, a lot of really tall dudes, and I'm the short one. But I was still pretty short, so I was trying to keep up with them. And he had his friend that was kind of coming over to like my house, and I think he had kind of gotten into his mind of just like this, like, oh, I'm gonna pick on my little cousin, just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like that like alpha mailing sort of thing.
Right.
And there's just definitely multiple different times where it was just like I would just have these like, I remember like it was like saying something to me or like trying to get me to do something. I just remember like tackling him off a trampoline and
Yeah.
just being like, or something like that. Or man, just I feel like I don't have particular examples, but I just get really, really, really defensive. I think when I think someone's trying to control my behavior, or I'll get kind of in that like I do. Oh, I have an example. At the gym, there's this trainer I had at the gym, and she very probably play blast and probably double masculine. I don't know what type she was. Maybe an ESTP. I think that was my guess. But she had this thing at the gym where she wanted people to say gnarly after she would give these instructions. Like she would like had this little code word that she wanted people to say, and she's just really obnoxious. And
Yeah.
I wasn't saying it, and I was just like, because I was dumb. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna do that. I'm going to the gym. It was like an hour long like training class,
Yeah.
and she like saw that I wasn't saying it, and she stopped, and she like went over to me, and she was trying to kind of make it like an example out of me about how I wasn't getting into the energy,
Yeah.
and like stopped the class because I wasn't saying it, and was kind of doing like the let's call attention.
Yeah.
And I just sat there the whole time, and I said, do you really want to waste all these people's time when they're paying over $100 a month for this class? Try me.
Yeah.
And I just stared her down, and
Yeah.
I was just like, your time is way more valuable than mine here, so make your
And then,
move.
what did she do then when you did that? We did that.
She, I think once she realized I was mad, I think she dropped it. But it's just, I'm not gonna say your dumb thing. Like, I'm here to work out, man. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sounds like masculine FE there.
yeah.
Like
On her part, or
she's using masculine F
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think
to
she
get you to
was,
adhere to get you to adhere to the tribe feeling or whatever. Like
yeah. I think she is lead SEFE double masculine. Um, but like, yeah, I was just like, no, I'm not gonna do it, and I'll sit here as long as you want to make a jackass out of yourself.
yeah.
But
Your cousin who tried to like alpha male you sounds like also had masculine SE or something, you know?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seems like you're
I,
having problems with a lot of masculine SE people.
yeah.
Like they they seem to
It's
be
kind of funny.
a thorn in your side.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was just the first example I think I thought about it.
Yeah.
They're normally not that intense. I just think those were two kind of like relatively intense examples in my life, so they just kind of
Yeah.
like bubbled up. But yeah.
But you're still a double decider, so talk about that. Like what you can see the point of view of yourself and the tribe, right? So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, like even with the case of the trainer, I mean, even thinking about that and talking about that right now, and even like reiterating the story to you, I was sitting there in my head going, but I was kind of being obstinate, and I was kind of, she's just trying to get the energy up of the people who are there, because people, you go to be a gym trainer and you're doing these things and you're doing like this like large class, you're trying to get people psyched out. I understand why somebody has to do that and why that makes sense, but then I'm just kind of like that, like, I think double deciding is that definitely, that makes a lot of sense for me. I don't think it's very difficult, and I don't know if it was hard for me to originally to be able to parse out whether that's just being able to see things from multiple different perspectives, or if it's just kind of understanding the tribe reasons for things. I do have play third, but yeah, I mean, I don't generally have a difficult time at all seeing why people do things the way that they do. I usually try to actively understand it. It doesn't, a lot of times doesn't change what I'm going to do.
right.
But
But you can empathize at least.
yeah, but of course, yeah,
Um
I don't have a hard time with empathy, nor do I don't think I have a hard time with people kicking my ass over things that are silly about me.
so you don't take yourself too seriously at the same time. Like
No,
you're serious but not too serious.
no.
Like Your play is third, so it's a demon, but it's not like your worst demon. So
Mhm.
can you talk about how you can still use it fairly okay, or still you have trouble with it? Like
Mm,
you kind of mentioned it already earlier that you like when you ping off the tribe, you kind of lose interest in that thing, in whatever that
mhm.
thing that you're
So
was. Yeah, sorry.
I think pinging off the tribe, as long as I'm having a back and forth conversation where I don't feel like someone's trying to and teasing out an idea just that I'm not invested in, no big deal. I can go back and forth, and I would prefer to go back and forth with somebody than be lectured at or try to lecture someone. Um, I think when it's kind of like a creative idea or like some baby
Yeah,
creative idea I have that
yeah.
I'm all precious about. I think the more it's subject to the tribe manipulation aspect of it as opposed to the possibilities, I think I get a little bit more disinterested. But like somebody, like if I were to tell someone about something that I had brought up and then they're like, oh, this is the ST sort of things, like why that doesn't work, and it's like, go away.
Um, what about your feminine TE? Like, how do you use it? So it's a demon, but it's your third one, right? So
Hmm.
how do you use it quite a bit, or do you?
I think I do. I think I do. And I think how it manifests with me is I'm always open to people's reasons. I don't. I'm usually open to the way that, and with the NE as well, I try to understand things from people's perspective, and I try to be open to the logic and the reasons that people will have for things. And I usually try to figure out a way that makes sense. Uh, I, I think when someone explains something to me, I have a tendency to come off, I think, as more agreeable than I actually am. Or like, I think I've had a lot of instances in my life where people think they've like convinced me or changed my mind on something, and
Yeah,
I was just being like overly agreeable. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see why you think that.
I'm just laughing because I do the same thing because I have
uh,
feminine TE also. So
yeah, it's just and it's just, yeah, it's just kind of like that thing. I'm just like I don't want to. I mean, with maybe it's with the play third. Like I don't want to get too overly invested in it. It's like it's nice. I can have a back and forth with somebody about an idea,
yeah,
but I don't really want to sit there and like hash out all the reasons. I'll listen to them and it'll work for me or it won't.
I, I think like I feel like it's like you don't care enough to argue with them about it.
That's usually what it is.
Like that's what it is. I think at the end of the day, like because I think if you did care enough,
Hmm.
you would jump in
Yeah.
and yeah, not be agreeable Dallas. Like
Hmm. Yeah. The TE goes away and then it's the
the
FI.
FI. Yeah, and then the FI will punch you hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the FI punches hard.
Yeah. Um, is there anything that we haven't covered today about you that you want to talk about? Because you're pretty interesting. Double feminine, consume sleep, play blast, ENFP. Like even you're super different from Jonathan too, because Jonathan's
Oh yeah, that was super. So
that's feminine, but you guys are so different.
it's kind of funny because we really only have one thing flipped, so we should be really similar. But
Yeah,
I've had a lot of people tell me I'm similar to Shannon Welch. I don't know if you've had a chance to interview her.
yeah, I interviewed her. Yeah.
I've seen a couple people make that comparison. Um, Personally, within myself, I feel like I see more Moby, but uh, let me see. Oh, so I did have an idea about um, masculine sensing versus feminine sensing in regards to how that manifests within the sort of like "don't control me, bro" archetype
Yeah.
with ENFPs. I think that masculine SI ENFPs are more likely to exhibit the kind of like classic. That seems more like the classical like I'm still going to take. I still have like my control, and my control is immovable. My control function's immovable. So while I'll dance around with possibilities, when it comes to the control thing, I lock. Versus feminine SI, and I dated a masculine SI ISTJ for almost 5 years.
Wow.
We were almost exact opposites. She was NF, but she was blast, play, sleep, consume. So almost entirely opposites. And I think with feminine SI, there is more of a desire, I think, to, it's not that I hate necessarily the control in a lot of cases, but rather I don't want to take responsibility for it.
Right.
I don't, I think it manifests as I'll go along with what other people's, it's always that, the sentence I think, as opposed to don't control me more or don't control me bro, is other people seem to care more. Um, so when it comes to time, scheduling, plans, setting up appointments, me trying to pick out a date even to do this interview was like such an arbitrary question for me. And I'm like, I know I have to do it. I know I have to do it and like pick out a time, but it's like all these times could possibly work. And if I control the situation, then like it's almost like if I fix on a point and be, it's like it
Yes.
seems, even just me picking a time for something seems hyper controlling, like I've
Yeah.
thrown such a big wrench in someone else's like schedule, is always what it feels like.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it always feels like I've like thrown a wrench in someone's schedule,
Yeah.
or I have, so I think when it comes to the control function, I tend to be passive. I like, in some ways I do like the control, but I like having the bits of control, because then I can use the masculinity to play around them and do what I actually want. It's almost like that, sort of like it's the trickster archetype. You give me the rules and then I can you give me the rules and the parameters, and then I can bend them and still play the game.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I do have the masculine SI. So like when you talk about like picking the time, I was like, oh, I always pick the time. Like usually, like if I'm scheduling interviews with
Mm-hmm.
people, that I have no problem picking a time, and I don't feel like, what was the word that you used earlier? Like you said that picking the time feels like,
For
what,
me,
yeah,
for me, if I just randomly, like we were setting up this meeting and I'm just like,
yeah,
the only time I can do it is Tuesday at 3 o'clock. And it's
yeah,
just like, well, that's just like, that's
yeah,
99% probably not going to work. So it's just like, it's always this feeling of like, we had this, like, we're going to make something happen. And because I'm being exceptionally arbitrary in a way that I don't need to about the time, it's like
yeah.
throwing a wrench in someone's plan.
So you prefer someone to pick that time then?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And I think what will eventually happen, which is bad, is that I will eventually overcommit to things, and then keeping all of the control and all the scheduling becomes rough. But I don't. think masculine SI tends to be. I mean, and I think that would make sense. Masculine SI is almost more controlling than feminine SI.
and when you dated at ISTJ,
Mm-hmm.
what was it like? Was it like an awesome relationship for you? Like complete
Yeah,
almost
I
complete
would
opposite.
say I would say for the most part we were, and we're not dating anymore.
Yeah.
We were pretty good about like scheduling and planning things out. And I'll just talk about it from the SINE perspective. We were pretty good about scheduling things out. I think she cared a lot more about her schedule when and planning things out, and it was, I think, I would say that was probably something she appreciated about me, which was just my flexibility when it came to things.
Right.
Um, and so I think that dynamic worked well. For the most part, we were definitely, like, when it came to like scheduling commitments, almost never had problems, which is kind of funny. You would think that someone who was like super your opposite, that you'd have like something really sparky, but yeah.
Now, do you feel like you butted heads as a result of having both masculine and FI?
Yes, I would say that was probably our headbutting area. Was that we were both, uh, I think we were both in a lot of ways with the feminine TE, would kind of like dance around sort of like the things that we wanted,
Yeah.
but be very locked in. It's a lot easier for me, I think, with somebody who is very like forward about like, oh, this is what I want and this is how it is, and then I can kind of like, I mean, when energy comes towards you, you can kind of manipulate it. That's kind
Yeah.
of the push and pull. Yeah, I would say, yeah, but the masculine FI, we didn't butt heads on a lot of things, but I think I think there were a few things where we were just kind of like, this is what I feel, this is what I feel, and it was just kind of like hard to dance around that, I guess.
Right. So I guess it wouldn't be hard to assume that you would be most attracted to someone that's double masculine then as
Yeah.
and
I
probably an IJ.
Yeah, I can see that. It's kind of funny. I don't know how familiar you are with socionics.
No, not that much.
Not at all. They have their relationship styles, and I think they had like aggressor, victim, caretaker, infantile,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think, I mean, getting away from that in general, I have always had a lot more success in dating with women who are more forward, and more kind of like, I don't want to say aggressive, as the aggressive is maybe not the right word, but like very forward about what they want and kind of like direct to the point. It's almost like being able to kind of like dance around people like that is a little bit easier than two people who are kind of more like waiting. When two people are kind of on the defense about things, it's just kind of like, it's almost like the standoff, like what are you gonna do sort of
Yeah.
thing. But like when someone's making the moves, it's easy to kind of like dance. I mean, I think that plays out in this.
So you're the person that's on the defense. So you need a woman to be the aggressor.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I think it generally tends to, when it comes to flirting, I think it really tends to go better.
That's what happens.
Mhm.
So we're gonna wrap up the interview pretty soon. So Dallas, what have you done to work on your demon? So work on your either your feminine SI or work on your blast. Like, have you done any practice?
So yes, some of the things, and I will get it right now because it's right there. But one of the things that I have done to work on my feminine SI, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of a bullet journal, but
Well, you can tell me about it.
yeah, so basically I have a bullet journal, which is just kind of like a way for me to organize my thoughts. It's flexible in terms of like, you kind of like, when you write out a page in it, and then you create a table of contents, and you have the things that you're supposed to do and take care of and be mindful of from a monthly perspective, a daily perspective, a yearly perspective. And it's just kind of I like that it's really flexible, and it's like a very flexible way to kind of like organize thoughts. You can have like one of your pages be like August, like the week of August, and then the next page could just be like an idea that you have about something, and all you have to do is just in your table of contents write down the page 33 as an idea that you had, so then you can kind of like quickly reference. And it's sort of been a way for me to organize in maybe more of a sleep perspective, but able to organize ideas, and in an effective way. And I think when it comes to blast, I think the easiest thing that I've been able to do with my blast is hosting D&D and being the dungeon master almost all the time, because I have to talk permanently and explain the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like that, or you don't?
Oh yeah, I absolutely love it. It's super fun. It's being able to use. Dave and Shannon talked about, it's being able to use your being able to use your demons kind of in like a fake world.
Yeah.
And so makes it easier. It's kind of
Gotcha.
the easy place to like practice on it. So
Have you tried Toastmasters before? Where you can practice public speaking. Blasting
I have
the audience.
I haven't, no.
Have you entertained
No.
idea of it or never?
I've like been like, oh, Toastmasters, that's the thing, but I haven't been like, I should do that.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
Now, before we wrap this up, because we're quite different as ENFP, we're almost in the almost polar opposite. Like I was just officially typed recently.
you're a playwright, NETE.
Yeah, but I was surprised when they gave me my type back. I wasn't even sure if it was accurate or not. But they typed me as play blast,
Oh wow.
consume sleep, masculine, feminine. So that means supposedly I'm very good at getting started, and I'm very
Mm-hmm.
good at teaching, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. So because we have such different opposite saviors, because my saviors are your demons. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so we're completely opposite in that sense. And also I'm an NETE, like I'm a nerd, right? I'm not like a NEFI hippie.
Mhm.
Like you have the hippie look going. I don't, like I'm not even representing that. So do you have any questions about someone that's, same type as you, both ENFP, but hey, you know what? Completely different in terms of, you know, like I have masculine SI,
Mhm.
feminine NE, and saviors are savior animals are completely opposite.
Let me see here.
Or even audio, because I'm on audio. I'm audio kinesthetic, right? So
Yeah. So let me see. You would be so you would lead so your lead function is double feminine then I think. Your
yes,
play.
that's
Um
feminine. That's right.
yeah. How is that like how do you view your double masculine sleep versus your double feminine play?
It's really weird. So when I got my official type back, they actually said that even though my sleep is fourth, I was pretty good at it. They said, and I think one of the reasons is because it's double masculine. Like my SIFI is masculine. So even though it's fourth, I'm quite aware of it. Like there's a strong awareness
Mhm.
to it. So I can definitely sleep process, and I do it a lot. Um, Double feminine play, yeah, I can see that because like when I'm joking around with people, I'm usually the person that I would say like I'm the victim usually in like the play when the play is happening. I'm the
Mhm.
person that's taking like the brunt end of it.
Oh, okay, I think I see what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, like people will like talk shit to me, and I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Like,
Gotcha.
yeah, and I do a lot of like self-deprecating jokes,
Mhm.
because like I don't really care if you make fun of me or whatever. I have my
Yeah.
masculine, I have my masculine FI inside, so like for me, I can handle it, so it doesn't matter. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
I think so. Let's see. So what did you before you got into OP? What did you think you were? Because based off your saviors, and what is it? Sleep or consume? That's your third.
Consume is my third, supposedly. I do
So did
a lot though, so I don't understand. That's why I feel like there's maybe a misconception or maybe a mistyping.
do
Um,
you before you got into OP? Did you think of yourself as an ENTP?
Never. I was always an ENFP.
I was an ENFP.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your standard Meyer, like your how close do you feel to your like garden variety like Myers Briggs ENFP? Like you'll have like the like say when you're first getting into the MBTI and like psychology and typology and stuff, and you read the paragraphs about something. What did you think about the ENFP? Did you think it made sense?
Yeah, it 100% resonated when I read the descriptions. That's why I felt like, oh yeah, definitely ENFP.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I sent in my typing and got it back, they're like, no, you're a nerd. You're an
Mm-hmm.
NT, ENFP NET. So I was like, oh, weird. Like
Mm-hmm.
your tribe above self, and which I don't think I am. But but like after they presented the evidence for it,
Mm-hmm.
then I said, okay, I think I think it makes sense. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to use my sleep to process that.
Your play is definitely not demon.
No, my play is not a demon. No, no. But
Definitely
before
not.
before I thought I was consumed play black sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was officially typed, just because when they said when you have play and black together, you have that manic state that you enter.
Mm-hmm.
I do get that. So it's weird for me because I get that manic state and then I'll get really introverted, right? So at home, my girlfriend thinks I'm very introverted. But when I go outside with people, I'm extremely extroverted.
Mm-hmm.
Like annoyingly, like I have to control it too, right? I have to tone it down because when I was much younger, I had a lot of INFP friends and they would get so overwhelmed by me, right? So I had to learn to tone it down, otherwise they would freak out essentially.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I think I'm out and about. I'm usually pretty like, but then I'll get home and I'll get excited about an idea and I'll just be worrying and like running around the house and like trying to like quickly put all these things together. I definitely will get the manic. It's kind of towards the end of the day or when I'm off the clock, I guess necessarily. But I'll get into those kind of like I'll have my little tiny bursts of hyper extrovert.
So it's a small
Um,
window when it happens.
yeah, small window.
So I'm a night owl. So in the morning, I'm pretty much dead. Like I'm barely functioning. But
Me
like
too.
after 6 p.m. I enter this like crazy manic mode where like from 6 to 1 a.m. I'm like a machine, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am as well. When I get home, especially around like 10, like, or like when I should be going to bed. I don't know if it's that feeling of just like there's so many things I haven't actually done with my day that I was supposed
Yeah.
to do, and I'll spin and I'll start working on stuff. I'll like start like reading like a tutorial for something, or I'll like start working on a project. It'll be like 11 o'clock and it's like, what am I doing? Go to bed.
So is it because you've been conserving your energy all day as a result that sleep saves?
Probably, yeah.
Like now that you are in the end of the day, now you have that like little bit of energy left. Now you can like go nuts at it,
Right.
but it's like the wrong time to do it, right? Because it's almost
Mm-hmm.
dead, right? So
Yeah. I almost wonder truthfully if it's just that I'm like about my job and like the things that I do. I think I had commented on your YouTube channel a long time ago. You were talking about like life satisfaction with your job. I think you had a video about that. Um, and I think I had said something about like at the time I was like, yeah, it's like a 4 usually with like things that I do. That's why I was thinking about going back into like psychology. But I almost wonder if I'm like
oh,
I almost wonder if I'm like stockpiling my energy for things I actually give a shit about,
yeah.
and then I'm just like exploding on them when I get off the clock, and I'm like
Yeah,
lazy at
maybe your
my
energy
job.
level is not that high in general, so you have to conserve it for the things that you care about.
Hmm. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
and then yeah, that video was that video that I pissed off a lot of INFJs and INTJs, like the four. Because
Really?
you're talking about the four things, right? The four jobs that you can master, right? That's a concept.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Like as an ENFP, there's four things you can master your whole life. Like that was my recommendation, right? Because
Hmm.
you have you can in 10,000 hours you can master.
Right.
ma-
That's been that is a painful lesson, and something that as an ENFP I know is very true. It's
Yeah,
very you can't, and it is so disgustingly easy to just work on 20 projects and like try to work on them all at the same time and have them all be half-assed.
yeah, but
And
four is a lot. What do you feel about four?
4 is intense too. That's like
Is that still too little? Like four?
it's kind of weird. It's like it's in the state of where it simultaneously feels like too little projects,
Yeah,
but it also is just like it's hard because you do need to have like I feel like as an NE you need to be able to have the ability to be like I can't work on this anymore. I need to put this down and do something else, because
yeah,
if I focus on one thing, like you can try to pull like I'm gonna have discipline and work on one thing, but that's maybe if you're such in a swing of like of respecting your demons that you're gonna do that. But I think having a few things to cycle through, but even 4, it still sounds like it's so like I can sit here and be like, yeah, that's a good idea, but then like I know that in practice that would be so rough to like I wouldn't be able to just have 4 things to work on.
right. Because that's what I was thinking. Because like a lot of IJ's advice, like, hey, pick that one thing
Mm-hmm.
and focus on it, because otherwise you're not gonna get anything done, right? But I'm an ENFP, you're an ENFP, and you know for a fact that that's impossible. Like that is literally impossible. Like unless we have those, I do admit there are periods, especially for us, I think, because we have masculine FI, that we get obsessed over something. We do
Mm-hmm.
focus on it. Like you had your fitness challenge, right? So you do get obsessed over something, but
Yep.
after the obsession weans off, it's gone. It's
Mm-hmm.
gone.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely. I did my thing. I lost like 27 pounds in 2 months, and I was just like I killed it. I crushed it, and now it's just like bleh.
yeah,
I can't.
exactly. No, I 100% get that. That's why but then I was thinking too. I was like, okay, in life, like from 20 to 60, you probably that's about 40 years,
Mhm.
and 40 years means if you need 10,000 hours to master one thing, then you can master four things. So as an ENFP, I think, okay, well, you can bounce around four things. Like, hey, I'm bored of this. Let's go to this one. I'm bored of this. I can go to this next one.
And then you'll be a master of 4 things at 60.
Yeah, yeah, exactly 60. Then you like hit them all at once. Like boom, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
master of four. I'm a sage now, right? So, but then for you, maybe because you have masculine any, that's still too little. That's
Yeah.
like, but then we live longer as humans now, right? So maybe what do you feel like? What if I said you had 6 or 8? You know,
If I had what?
what if it said you had 6 or 8 areas you can focus on, like your masters? That's still too little.
It,
What like
I
what
mean,
number would you what number would you not freak out over? Like you're like not like saying, oh, that's too little. Like you're like, okay, that's
man, it's hard to pick the number, but it's so like picking a number arbitrarily is kind of hard. But
yeah,
I could sit there and go, I want to make video games that are good. I want to be like really good at making video games. I want to be a good video game designer. I want to write novels. I want to be good at that. I want to play music. I
yeah,
want to get into singing. I want to be a voice actor. I want to be like master fitness and master my body. And that's 6 right now, and I could keep going. Like I I yeah, like those 6 just like off the top of my head. And I know there's more that I'm just not coming to mind, but like 6 things right there, and it's just so. I don't know what type my dad is, but the funny thing about like living longer thing, because I was talking to him about like kind of how I'm going. I was like, man, I feel like I'm going through my quarter life crisis because I'm 28, and he was just like, quarter life crisis. Who says you're gonna live to 112? It's just like, you dick. Like, 84? What? Maybe I will. Maybe modern technology will help me live to 112, and I'm really having my quarter life.
it's a quarter life is it not 25?
Yeah, it would have been 25. I don't know if the math is exactly right, but like, I
Yeah,
mean, just like late 20s, like having your like late 20s crisis, and I called it quarter life. And he was just like, who says
yeah,
you're gonna live past 100?
yeah. No, but there's a lot. Yeah, yeah. I get what your dad's saying, but like, there is such thing as quarter crisis though. It's real, just like
Yeah,
I don't know why they call midlife crisis 40 though. So I guess people before didn't live to 80, I guess, or like,
mm-hmm.
but that's interesting. Um, anyways, Dallas, that's about it for the interview.
All right.
But thanks again for doing this. That was awesome.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely learned a lot from you. It's like especially about masculinity and like what a pure ENFP is like. That's super cool.
Pure ENFP.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You're the pure blooded ENFP. Yeah,
the Slytherin.
yeah, 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 yeah. Honestly,
Hey,
no, ENFPs are usually the good guys, right? You're probably a Gryffindor.
yeah,
Like
I think
Harry Potter could be
Gryffindor.
ENFP, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, all right. Well, I'll say goodbye to everyone, and I'll just end the interview right here. And
All right.